from. And I thought they would be interesting. So one of them was, I don't know if you remember, but last days after the Dnieper was um, in this state, uh, flooding and everything. Um, there were some discussions about cholera, right? So one of the things that appeared in Romanian newspapers was actually if it somehow able to travel and therefore Romanian and Bulgarian um, beaches and the people who are um, going there for holiday, if they are at risk. So this thing was refuted today in our news. Actually, the Bulgarian and the Romanian ministers of environment were saying they are discussing together this problem. For us, is not a problem. Ukraine uh, will have uh, is how do you say um, taking the brunt of it, right? So, um, but it's not gonna affect the other areas of the Black Sea and not our beaches. So not Romanian and not Bulgarian. So that was one piece of news because I saw it in our newspapers and I thought it's ridiculous, but um, it's good to have it refuted by someone who actually has data and information. So that was one. The second one is actually a nicer piece of news. It's not going to help Ukraine soon, but it's still going to help Ukraine going forward. So from Romania to Ukraine, we have 3 direct crossings. And when I say 3, I'm referring strictly to road access, not to railway. So by road, there are three customs in 3 different points, 3 different regions. I think you called them counties. Anyway, one of them was really old, was made of wood, is made of wood, and it could not hold um, large amounts of transport, and also it has a limitation on the load of the transport. So the maximum load that a vehicle can carry is 3.5 tons, which is actually not not too much. So because of that, the customs that the crossing that we have with Ukraine, which is near Suchava, is really busy, and the lines are for kilometers, like 10 kilometers or so. And what they plan to do is that in the next 2 years, a second custom, which is over Tisa, will have um, so they plan to change the bridge. Basically, there is this bridge of wood, so they try to change this this, and basically allow heavy transport to cross to Ukraine through there also. So it's not going to help Ukraine right now. And I know this, but anything that's going to help Ukraine going forward, I think it's a plus. And hopefully taking into consideration um, the length of the work, which is 2 years, hopefully the war in Ukraine will be concluded and they will be victorious by then, and we could ship other things and help them in other ways um, over this bridge. So, yeah, basically, this was it. No questions. And I will drop off. But nice seeing you. And thank you for having me.
No, thank you very much, Andrew. It's always a pleasure. So while I'm about this, I will tell everyone I just put 2 tweets up into the nest. One is about the Bulgaria wants to join the EU's initiative to supply Ukraine with 1 million rounds of 155 ammo, which is very interesting. And the other one is a tweet which is about Sevastopol, and there's a video in it which shows you just how dark it is in Sevastopol. It's pretty dark. And there's a little bit of light coming from some car headlights. Do you think they'll try and line up all the cars in Sevastopol, Alan, and turn the headlights on so people can see?
Oh, why not? And while they do that, they might as well turn on their cell phones, just so Ukraine can get a better look.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We should be. I mean, we should be part of, the James Bond Q brigade, coming up with ideas.
So is it only Sevastopol that is?
It's all over.
Over
Crimea. I think Mockers, I think she may have messaged me where it was. I'm trying to find it now. Now. I'm trying desperately. There you are, Mockers. I'm trying to find the said message where she says, "Oh no, I don't know where she said Anyway, there's loads of places. Maybe she just read them out, but there's a lot of places gone dark."
All right, sorry to interrupt the special broadcast message. Our good friend and friend of the space, Israeli soldier in Ukraine, Arya Ben Yehuda, was injured when I don't know all the details. Either his vehicle hit a landmine or they were hit with artillery near Avdiivka. Arya Ben Yehuda, if you could put him in your prayers or your thoughts. He's recuperating at a Kyiv hospital currently. He has leg injuries. I assume either they drove over something that they shouldn't have, but he's alive and well, and he promises he'll only need a month to heal, and he's back in the fight. The second injury, but this is the strength and the spirit of those who defend Ukrainian nationals, and all the foreign volunteers that go to fight, especially the ones with actual military experience like Aryeh. So I'm not going to post the photos. I don't have permission, but he is working on getting better, and he sends his regards. And if you could send him your thoughts and prayers, because he's an observant fellow, and it means a lot to him. So Aryeh Ben Yehuda, recovering in hospital in Kyiv, probably drove over a landmine near Avdiivka, and he's recovering nicely. Thanks for that.
Well, just great news that he's in hospital and recovering. Right, that's wonderful. Of course, all our best to him, Yehuda.
I'll send your regards. Thank you, David.
Please do. So Mockers has very kindly sent me the list of places that have gone dark. So she says Crimea, Kerch, Sevastopol, Alushta, and Pavoria have no electricity, which is that's wonderful news, isn't it? I think it was Brandon, Jens, then Lily, Alan.
It's Yef Patoria, and it's
Hi,
extremely
all.
important.
Oh, Yef Patoria. Oh.
Yeah, Yef Patoria.
I just want to make a contribution to the discussion about the Ukraine-Russia war, and basically talk about the various worldwide effects of many of the battles and wars that are being fought in that region or in that area of Ukraine, specifically in Donbass. I heard on Twitter and many other social media outlet places that the the city of Donbass was one of the most gruesome battles of the whole entire war. I may be wrong about that, and that may not be the case, but according to many sources,
yes, you are. There's no
various
city, Brandon. There's no city of Donbass. Donbass is a region.
it is a region, and that's sort of
And
what
it's
I
a
was
region which
trying
is
to explain.
partially occupied by Russian invaders.
And it is partially occupied by Russian invaders, which makes it even more dangerous and more of a threat to many different Ukrainians that want to secure sovereign peace in that region. So I think it's
So,
critical.
Brandon, give me a moment here, Brandon. Though, right? So,
Okay.
so Ukraine, a sovereign country, was invaded by Russia, right? You admit that, right? And
Yes, I admit that.
and so for everyone to be safe in Ukraine, all Russia has to do is turn around and go back to Russia, right? But if every Russian went back to Russia, Ukraine would be perfectly safe, wouldn't they? And
That's
people
exactly
wouldn't be dying.
correct. And I
Okay.
second the point about that fact that if every single Russian left Ukraine, there wouldn't be any war. The war would be demolished, and we would basically see a retreat of enemy forces.
I got another question for you. Where are you from, Brandon? What country?
I'm from the United States of America.
Do you mind telling us what state you're in?
I am from Michigan. I live in Michigan currently.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Occupied Canadian territory of Michigan.
And I've been releasing many of those videos to sort of explain my thoughts on the war itself and give more background about the many different types of combat maneuvers that might be happening in that region that we probably don't know about, and probably should focus and concentrate our mission towards seeing exactly how and what and ifs and whys of this war and how it can be completely finished, possibly within the coming months or the coming years, so that this conflict comes to a halt or maybe even an end.
Well,
Ukraine
Brandon,
succeeds in defeating the Russians.
Of course, Brandon, there's only one reason the war began, and that is because Russia invaded Ukraine. And in terms of what the Ukrainians might be doing now in launching a counteroffensive, there's a lot they're doing we don't see. There's a lot they're doing we shouldn't even know about.
That's exactly right. And many of the pieces of information that they have is definitely locked behind some sort of classified information that we, as particulars, citizens watching from the outside, don't really have a particular knowledge about or any specific way to figure out the ins and outs of this information that's classified in Ukraine, because of the fact that Ukraine is such a sensitive topic that if we were to even try to figure out some of the playbook maneuvers of this war, including what Russians will do in the future, we just can't really predict their maneuvers that well right now. And it's
No,
sad.
we can't. So Brandon, I'm wondering, are you just a war watcher, or do you care so much about Ukraine that you want to do something to help Ukrainians, maybe by sending a contribution or something like that, to be sure humanitarian aid gets to Ukraine?
Of course, sending a contribution would be very helpful, whether it's $6, $7, $8, $9, or $10. That's very helpful in terms of assisting Ukraine in fighting the war. as well. And vocal support is helpful as well. Monetary support is there too. And I would be happy to make a donation. I made a donation to the United States government for about $6 like a couple days ago. And they're the ones that are supplying Ukraine with lots of financial assistance. And they
Brandon,
are,
can I tell you another way to make a contribution to Ukraine?
yes.
It's by going to MriyaReport.org, MRIYA report.org. There's
Okay.
a donate button you can tap on, and you're exactly right. It's about whatever you can send, $2, $5, $10, etc. And my other question for you, Brandon, as an American citizen, do you also contact your members of Congress to ask them to support Ukraine as much as they possibly can in their role?
Yes.
And there are a lot of resolutions that we need senators and members of Congress to sign on to.
Yes, that's exactly correct. And I recognize the importance of keeping in contact with many different Congress people. Although I do not have one-on-one conversations with them, I do speak to them through social media sites, especially President Biden, who I have his phone number and I can contact him through the cell phone. And he's a huge
What?
player in this war, and people may not know it because he keeps it on a low key.
Sorry. Back it up. President Biden's cell number?
Yes, I have his cell number in my phone that I contact him with.
Why?
Because he gave it out on Twitter and he sent it to many people, so that they could text him and for the purpose of communicating any different messages or using communication channels to figure out a plan to
what have you
do whatever they want to do.
Ukraine?
I'm sorry?
What have you told him about Ukraine? Can you tell him? Can you text him right now and say, "Give attackums to Ukraine"?
Oh, I actually wrote a large article piece on a defense post about this particular issue. I wrote in this piece that basically the Ukraine war should come to an end, and we should take all of our resources out of Ukraine and put them to other uses, and
Right.
then
All right.
let the
Great,
troops.
Brendan. Thanks so very much. If you do get a chance to speak to Joe, let him know to come to MriyaReport. And I really appreciate your help. And we're gonna have to cycle some people down to get some
Okay.
new ones up. Thanks so much, Brendan. And over to you, Al and David. Thanks.
So I think it's Jens next. But I think it's the only hand up. But I'm pretty certain I saw Lily had a hand up and at some stage. So anyway, Jens, Lily, put your hand back up.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm just sending my thoughts and prayers for Yehuda's namesake. Can I just call him Ben for short? Was it
Sure.
Arya?
His name's Aryeh. Yeah, Aryeh, but
Yeah,
Abraham. Sorry.
Yeah. I saw the new Atacam trend, and I thought we have seen this trend of ordering Caesars and Leopards for next year and so on, keeping the production lines, order starts production, and I couldn't help to correlate the amount of potential Atacams. I think they said 50 with the money order that was approved from Poland for, I think they ordered around 50 Atacams also. So I'm wondering, I've been following Atlantic Resolve, seeing a lot of stuff heading to Poland, and I wonder if these things are starting to fall into place for the next big thing.
I'm sorry, Jens. I was having a coughing fit I only heard a little bit of what you were saying. If you could repeat, I will try and stop coughing, and then I might be able to answer a little bit. If someone else can't answer, that is.
I can't help to see I think the money that was it talked about roughly 50 ATACMS for Ukraine for next year, and that's roughly what Poland was approved to buy in February. So I see a lot of stuff: tankers, IFVs, Abrahams, even ATACMS heading to Poland, and I'm wondering if there's a trend.
Good question, right? I can't see it with the ATACMS. That question, that's the $80 million, right, that you're talking about. That hasn't been signed off yet. So for Ukraine, so whether it's a case of who would know whether something's going to Poland for just in case it gets signed off, so it would be nearby. But I'm not so sure whether you would need to do that with something like ATACMS. It's not like they weigh hundreds of tons each and are difficult to transport. They're pretty light, and they could just send them, couldn't they, if they need to? So maybe that just might be reading a little bit much into it. Poland is buying an awful lot of kit. Poland has increased their GDP spending. I think it's gone to 4% or something, and they're taking this threat very, very seriously. So we will see a lot of kit going into Poland, and I think it would be pretty easy to conflate the two. And Lily, to you.
I'm in the car right now, but if Yehuda stays there maybe another 10 minutes, I'll be home and then I'll come back on. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that about Arya. And please let him know that when I light candles tonight, I will specifically make a very special barucha for him. And please tell him, all of us here, I really love when he's on and speaking. He was on yesterday, I think, or the day before. He was on recently.
He was on. It wasn't yesterday. It was the day before. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll also make a special donation to MriyaReport.org. Everyone can go there, whether you want to volunteer or donate any money, like Yehuda, David, everyone. Axel always reminds us it's not the amount, but it's the point. Even if it's $1, how much it means spiritually as well, that the Ukrainians know that we are with them, even without a lot of cabbage, so to speak. But I just wanted to, and also a good Shabbos. And I'll hang up, but I'll come back when I get home.
Thank you, Lily. And just so people can find an easy link to donate to MriyaReport, it's the first tweet up in the nest. Just give it a read, tap on it, tap on the donate button when you get to MriyaReport.org. David, I see one more hand. Then I have some questions for you, and I guess a reminiscence about Thomas Tyner's afternoon with us. So, Irish Ting Tong, go ahead, please.
I don't know if Yehuda can answer this, but just I was reading about the Merkava tanks from Israel, and I wonder, with all the tension now, with how much Russia and Iran are kind of in bed together, would there be the political will for them to send them to Ukraine, or do you think it's more just send it to another Eastern, giving Ukraine their tanks?
Irish Yehuda has dropped, but David, see if I
did you say Irish Yehuda?
Oh, well, I did say Irish Yehuda, but I was saying Irish as shorthand for Irish Ting Tong. So you missed the comma, David.
I did.
Lassie, wee Lassie, did you tell me that there is a fiddler on the roof?
There's an Irish Yehuda running around. There we are. Go quick.
But David, Thomas Tyner covered this subject of the Israeli tanks, and
He did.
Yeah.
Listen. So I'll give you the because this is what I'm like. I'll give you the short version, because I'm not a man of words, as you know. The reality is, it very much looks like it's going to be a very complicated ringtausch amongst many, right? And who that many could be? It could be Greece. Most likely, it might be Turkey. There might be some involved in Cyprus as well. But I think they're really talking about a ringtausch, as opposed to doing something like. And I like not Yehudas. I liked Irish Doman's the Irish Doman's idea, which was that they go to Italy. Italy give theirs the Arietes, right? And then they go.
Yeah, not happening.
I know, but it was. I'm discussing the suggestion, right? So the reason for Doman was saying, regardless of the fact we know it's not going.
You want to deprive the Italians of good tanks in order to give pre-generation tanks to the Italians.
Except for the point was. Doman's point was very valid. Was that in actual fact that the tanks, because the Italians are buying the L2A8 soon, right? So those Arietes will go to waste and they will never see combat. Whereas they could just go to see combat, and in actual fact, Mercates. Anyway, those other ones. No, that's the Merkavas. I mean, the thing is I did think Merkava, but then I started thinking sparkling wine, and I lost the plot at that point. So anyway, if they went to Italy, then they would just cover Italy for time being.
It's funny, David. Merkava reminds me of a sparkling wine as well, but it's a tank. It's an Israeli tank, apparently quite a good one.
And but you get a pop as well. Well, there we are. Pop. So anyway, so that was
it comes in different profiles. It comes in different generations. The generation we're talking currently is not worthy to be exchanged with the tanks people want.
Can't they just send them, give them to Jordan and say, Jordan, can the challengers go somewhere where they can be dusted off and refurbished? Maybe Jordan could take them. There's a lot of them.
The Challenger ones are better than the Merkava.
No, that's what I meant. So send those, do a ringtausch with Jordan. That's what I was saying.
I think
I love the fact that I love the fact that David is using the word ringtausch.
I know. I do like it. It's very good.
And this translates as ring toss, I assume. But Thomas had focused on
tausch is exchange. Ring exchange is you hand over something in a circle. One gives to another so that the other can give to another.
So it's something like a children's game, in other words.
But with weapons.
Right. Thomas focused on European nations, I believe, that wanted to get rid of old Soviet tanks. And so this is why, as I recall, he focused on Greece, Cyprus as two possibilities.
No.
Or Morocco.
No, careful. So there's a couple of tanks which are currently in the possession of certain states, both in Europe, and Morocco is not in Europe. It's a Mediterranean littoral state in northern Africa. That's the main difference, and every Spaniard will tell you so. But the key thing is that there are nations such as Croatia or Bulgaria who may be in need of tanks. That's what he referred to. And they may be in need of tanks to replace their existing Soviet tanks. So this is where this may come to play. However, the main recipient who could make use of these in order to free up Leopard 1A5 upgraded to Greek standards is Greece. The same thing might happen to Cyprus, despite the fact that Cyprus is, of course, in an open conflict with a Turkish invasion. So it's probably Greece.
And I do know Morocco is in Africa. I was going to amend my statement.
Delighted that you know. I'm there is a certain trust in the general education which I have, which extends to my colonial friends.
The best way to learn geography is to get a shortwave radio, see what stations around the globe you can pull in, and then look at a map. That's what I did when I was 7.
Did you ever play with your children? Where in the world is Carmen San Diego?
I played it with my daughter, Axel, but that that game didn't exist when I was a child.
As I said, what you played with your children, I completely agree. Of course, it only existed later. I completely agree. We were both old and bold, or older and bolder when this came about.
I did play a game that my father had when he was a child, and I still have it, called Around the World in 80 Days.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that?
I
David?
do.
Well, there was a great
Of course we
film.
do.
Yes.
It's a wonderful board game as well.
Well, my father had a game actually from the 1920s, and it used airplanes, of course, because this was just after Lindbergh had crossed the Atlantic. So my father was 7, and all of the cities had different names than they have today. But it was a wonderful game. We played it for hours and hours and hours. That was my introduction to geography, and I've continued it to this day. So I can identify many, many nations, but sometimes I still dredge up a country, something like Yugoslavia. Doesn't exist anymore.
Did you know that Andorra is still the biggest threat to both France and Spain?
Yes, I can understand that. You can ski downhill to either country.
No. If Andorra were to have a revolution and somebody were to kill who is in charge in Andorra, both Spain and France were to be bereft of their heads of state.
This I had no idea of. I'd like to visit Andorra sometime, though. It's quite a climb up into the Pyrenees.
Well, just drive there. It's so much easier than climbing, Alan.
But climbing is so much more fun. So, David, we do have a couple of hands. The Duke and then Peter.
Good evening. Well, but for sure I can tell you that the tax environment in Andorra is very favorable for lots of people and therefore loved. But that's another question. No, I just heard on CNN a few moments ago that Biden doesn't mind if Ukraine would join NATO. So. For what it's worth, but
don't we love the way they express their condescending attitude at approving someone? Doesn't find.
Yeah, but I'm fearing that Ukraine gets now a member of NATO, and if NATO goes in, then Turkey has to approve Sweden and everybody.
Nah, it's not going to happen. The Germans will never allow that. Trust me,
no?
The Germans will never allow. No. Turkey needs money from I can tell you, Turkey needs massive amount of money from the EU. Otherwise, they cannot find a way to satisfy the currently delinquent loans they have short term with Putin. They are in hyperinflation. They need massive investment from the US. They need integration for their gas exploration. Therefore, they need a number of US companies specifically They need Halliburton, but they also need Schlumberger, which people mistake for a Canadian company with French offices, but which is essentially nothing else than a company which works as capitalist as they can be. They need to have them to work on their gas exploration. Otherwise, Turkey can never, ever take up what they believe is theirs in the Black Sea. They can also not explore the Black Sea without creating peace in the Black Sea. They have now found out that peace in the Black Sea can only come as Pax Americana or Pax Enlightenment, meaning Pax Europeana or Pax Ukraina. That's how it goes. Turkey has just found out that whilst they may have more people, they are not as worthy as Ukraine. That's very hard for Mr. Erdogan, and that's fine, but I'm sorry, he has derogated and diminished the value, the economic value added, EVA, of every Turkish citizen in the past 2.5 decades, to the point that every Ukrainian can generate more GDP per capita within 1 year than 8 Turkish people can. That should give you everything you need to know to understand why it doesn't matter what Erdogan thinks. So forget about him. He's irrelevant. We can outspend him. No, he can't. Duke, see, the thing is, you always believe that because somebody has a vote in something, that it matters. It does not. It just doesn't. What makes things do is the obligations they have. They are indebted. When people are indebted to others, or parties are indebted to others, when countries are indebted to others, when parties are incapable of moving because they have no discretionary spending capability. Currently, Turkey has about 4 to 5% of discretionary budget spending capability. That is as thin as a razor. This is one of the worst setups Turkey has had since hyperinflation in the early 90s. And they are currently going further. So they're expropriating people, they're eradicating their shipping industry, they're completely, utterly taking away money from each and every spending account. So it doesn't matter what Erdogan thinks or what you think about his voting power. He has no power left. He was just elected into power without having power.
Yeah, but that's why he.
There's no yeah, but why? There's nothing. There's nothing left. He's a chimera. He's a chimera. He's nothing.
But for his
nothing. He has no. Duke, he has nothing. It's
no, I know his economy is broken.
No, it's not his economy. His power base is broken. You need to understand that his economy could have been broken. He just tried to get money lent to him by the UAE and by the Saudis. Yeah. And the Saudis told him what their conditions are. He doesn't like them.
No.
And the Saudis told him that he can't keep up Incirlik without him also supporting other things. Yeah. Erdogan is getting older. He will lose out now. He just made a pact with the devil, which failed, Putin. Then he made another pact, or tried to make a pact with the UAE, respectively the Saudis. It also failed. And a few weeks from now, he will be shown as being an emperor without clothing. That's that.
I certainly
End
hope
of story. So don't worry about it.
Okay. Do I also don't have to worry about your friend Macron? I saw him with the prince from Saudi Arabia making up big time.
I will hand this to my American and British friends. The Brits have only beaten the French for about 728 years, as far as I know. The Americans have benefited from the French when they needed them in order to not pay taxes and get their own freedom, so they can battle it out amongst themselves. Other than that, I hope that Mr. Macron will not necessarily find ways of considering the butcher of Mr. Khashoggi to be a friend.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, I thought it was remarkable. Anyways, and last thing I want to add that was to my surprise. It is that Putin And the president of Algeria, that they were in a rather close contact, and he outlived the 3-day days visit without tea, I presume. But yeah, they were ramping up signals from yeah, we're gonna work together and do this, do that, and of course there was mentioning of oh, this was my laptop. Something about and
Your leopard?
my laptop. Yeah, Kitty, get down. And but anyway, today I also saw him. Yeah, rather self-indulged, smiling at this congress where also his buddy China, India, and amongst others did not appear about the economical forum that he is proceeding now. And threatening from, yes, we have already armaments of nuclear power in Belarus, and there will be more to come. And so he's trying up and putting up his bluff poker. And but yeah, I think in Holland for sure there is still a lot of trust and support for Ukraine. And yeah, I also received a message from the Ministry of Defense.
Hip Holland, Hip Holland.
Sorry?
I was joking. I said I was trying to highlight the fact that there's very few supporters, such as our friends, what you called Holland, in the Netherlands. Mark Rutte, his government, the whole population has been such a staunch support for Ukraine. You are absolute bloody heroes, my Frisian friends.
Well, you're welcome, the bloody bee. But I asked him about the dam bridge, if he could do something with special units from the army. And they sent a message that we have the waterschappen, and those take care of the water environment in every province. And the army supplied the equipment to them, and then those institutions could give it without any bordering or rules or politics to Ukraine. So, and if there is a question to ask to do more, they would, but they would need a mandate. And but they are willing and they're able to do a lot more. But yeah, it's not only Holland what can decide what or not to do. But yeah, I think that's great, and I'm still pissed that great institutions as Amnesty, Oxfam, Greenpeace,